right, everyone. Welcome, Ivana Taylor here. Welcome to our blab, Bizapalooza blab, which today is all about being productive and using productivity tools in your small business. My special guest today is Leo Welder. You are, what do you call, founder, owner?
I usually call myself founder.
Founder. So you're the founder of Choose What. What is Choose What exactly?
ChooseWhat.com is it's an entrepreneur startup guide. So essentially what we try to do is enable entrepreneurs who have an idea and have a skill that they want to leverage to build their own business. But typically when you are an entrepreneur, you're good at, perhaps one thing that you're going to build your business around, but you don't know a lot of the other details that are involved, like getting insurance and getting a business information, getting a phone system, and all those sort of technical details. So we try to put together a nice list for someone to work from, and then give them how-tos, starticles that give them tips on how to accomplish those goals. And then we also have comparisons and detailed reviews of all the tools that people use to be able to help them accomplish those tasks.
Awesome. And that's kind of what brought us together, this whole conversation around tools, because I am a tool freak. I love tools. And one of the things I really love about tools is almost like that Multiplicity movie, where if you've got the right tools, you really can multiply yourself. And a lot of small business owners, on the one hand, feel like they can't hire people, especially when you're a startup. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, they just don't have the time and maybe even the expertise to do all the things that need to be done. So go ahead.
To that point, that's the biggest issue is I've been an entrepreneur for a pretty long time, and I've both started businesses and worked in other startups. And what you oftentimes find is a business owner knows they need something, whatever it may be. Maybe they need a bookkeeping tool. They haven't gone as far as to set up their books yet, or perhaps they know they need to get incorporated, or they need an email-marketing tool or something like that. And the first step towards doing that typically is selecting a tool, selecting something that you're going to use to do that. And because they're not experts in whatever that is, they don't really know how to go about buying it, because you can't go into a store and ask the store clerk what the best one is. You have to kind of do your own research. And that trouble right there, that time and effort that an entrepreneur is required to do to make that step, is oftentimes the barrier that prevents them from doing anything. And they want to just using spreadsheets or whatever is available and just kind of putting it off. And so we're trying to make it easier for them by eliminating that step, or at least simplifying that step and doing all the research for them, so they can come see what they need and then quickly make a buying decision and pick out a tool so they can get started and kind of solidify that part of their business.
Awesome. So what I thought we would do is get started on some of these basic questions that I think are really, really important. How many times do you read folks talking about, the entrepreneur lifestyle and so on and so forth? But I think a lot of that has to do with your routine, right? So Leo, as Mr. Entrepreneur and the man who knows all about productivity and productivity tools, what is your morning routine?
So this did not come naturally to me when I first started the business. I am not naturally a morning person, but I have made myself into one as an entrepreneur, because when you hire people and work with others, you need to set a good example. So you can't be taking off in the middle of the day to go get your exercise in or whatever it is. So I 3 days a week now, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym, and I get a workout in and get a run in, because I think getting exercise is very important for people who do things that are stressful, because it kind of clears your mind and helps you relax and keeps you healthy. So 3 days a week, I do that. And then the other 2 days a week, I get up in the morning a little bit, usually more like 6 or 6:30, take the dog to the park and just go kind of fool around, and then come back. And another thing I've done is I've started having really big breakfasts. I know
really?
We typically will just have maybe a bowl of cereal or a bagel and some coffee. But I kept finding myself being drained by about 11. And so after my workouts, or after I take the dog to the park, I come back and I make a big breakfast, and that can carry me through, through noon or a little after. That way I don't run out of energy, and I don't find myself hungry for the last hour of what usually is my most productive time of day, which is the morning. So
right. But that's what you find too, right? That that morning time is really important. Why do you think that is?
It's typically because fewer things have gotten in your brain so far, because you've woken up and you're still pretty clear, and you can kind of focus on what your objectives were that you set the day before, or whatever your goals are. And as you go through the course of the day, answering emails, phone calls, text messages, social media, challenges with something you already started working on, it starts getting blurry in your brain, and you basically kind of get foggy, and it sort of wears you out. And so you operate in the afternoon with an anchor around your ankle, and it's challenging. I kind of get a good feeling of why the Spanish do siestas.
Ah, I get it. Yeah, I know what you mean. I lost my little question thingy. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to ask you was, what does productivity mean to you?
So you given me this question earlier, and my answer to it is accomplishing tasks on the path toward completing meaningful goals. And so what the important part of that is the last part of that. So completing tasks towards accomplishing meaningful goals. A lot of times you get caught as doing tasks, we kind of forget as to where we're going. And most people, they don't just have simple tasks that are in isolation, and they get a win every time they complete a task. Most of the time, when you're completing tasks, it's working towards something bigger, or that involves other moving parts. And so really taking time to evaluate what your goals are, and then building back by trying to take the pieces of the steps towards that goal, and making sure that those are the tasks that you're working on, those tasks that are extremely valuable towards accomplishing those goals, and constantly going back and revisiting what your task list looks like, to make sure you're focusing on those things, and not just focusing on whatever popped in your email, or whatever bug that you saw, or whatever it is. Because sometimes those urgent things will they'll grab you, and you'll think they're important, but the reality of it is that you could probably go without ever accomplishing that, and get by. Whereas the things that are your bigger goals and the most important things, if you can keep laser focused on those items and those tasks, you'll move your whole business forward, where whatever that little thing is that popped up doesn't even matter anymore. So most people, I think, these days have probably read Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that's the quadrant. You have it ranks things on urgency and importance. And so you just have to make sure that you take time to focus on things that are stay in the important side, and not just focusing on urgency, and not doing things that are urgent and not important, because that winds up killing your time and makes you not productive. So I don't think many people sit around twiddling their thumbs, just reading Facebook all day. I mean, obviously that's not productive, but I think a lot of people do a lot of tasks and get a lot of work done, but they're still not productive because they're not working towards something that's going to actually move the ball forward.
That brings me to my next question, which is all about procrastination, right? Because when you look at that task list of things that are important, and then you're like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I know that never happens to you.
No, that happens to everyone.
What's your strategy for, actually, this even does get into the productivity tool conversation, because quite frankly, a lot of times I look for tools that help me do the things I don't like to do, I don't want to do, or I'm not good at.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever, do you have anything like that, or how's that work?
Yeah, of course. Everybody struggles with that. I don't think there's a single person, well, there might be, but they're not me, that's for sure. But I get distracted. I'm a big fan of UT football, and my wife will tell you that she'll come in here more times than she wants to state, where I'm reading something on a blog about what's happening with, the recruits or whatever. Because we all, that sounds more fun than working on our, big project. So I have to do a lot of things. One of the things is there isn't one right answer for everyone. And in fact, there usually isn't one right answer for each person. You have to change it up, because it's kind of like working out or anything else. You do the same thing over and over again. You figure out a way to defeat whatever your plan is to help yourself. So you have to kind of revisit and come up with a new strategy of based on kind of what's happening with you, to figure out how to beat that procrastination bug that gets everybody. one of the biggest things I think that really causes procrastination is essentially almost like a fear of the volume of work that is required. So typically the things that we procrastinate the most are the things that are going to take the longest and are the hardest to do. And a lot of times it happens when you start giving yourself tasks that are too big. So like you might have a task that's like build a website. Well, that's going to take you like a long time, unless they were just using Website Builder and building your first site and putting some content up. But even that's going to take you several hours. But building a website might take you, 3 months. And if that's a task, that's ridiculous. That can't be a task. So you have to look at your tasks and make sure, are these things bite-sized enough? Can you complete every task in less than an hour? If it's going to take you more than an hour, you really should try to break it up, or maybe even if it's the same thing, maybe you're going to work on it for an hour, but you're going to give yourself a time limit so you know that after you've done that hour, you can take a break. And an hour for a lot of people is too long. It just depends on your personality. But to me, that's the biggest thing is when you're creating your task list and scheduling your day, you need to make sure that you don't give yourself anything that is going to make you look at it and feel sick and want to leave.
Oh, that's so good.
One of my favorite comedians, and his name's escaping me right now, but he's the guy who does the Hot Pockets.
Oh yeah. I know who you mean. Gaffigan.
Yeah, Gaffigan. I just went to go see him live once, and he once said, "Do you ever find yourself that you have so much to do that you just decide to take a nap?" and I find myself in that category periodically.
And I love what you're talking about into breaking it up into small tools. And actually, I've played with a tool. Have you ever done the, what is it called? Getting Things Done, GTD?
I have not.
The David Allen.
I know about it, but I haven't used that tool.
Oh my God, it is a great tool. And the nice thing about it is I think they have something that connects with like Google, with Google Tasks or Google Calendar, or like, they have all different variations. There's apps, there's all kinds of stuff. And that's something that he also says. He says, if it takes more than like 2 or 3 steps, then it's a project.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You can treat it like a project. And the other thing that he does that I really like is he'll say, if you can get it done in less than 5 minutes or maybe 2 minutes or like something really small, do it like right then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there was a couple really great, and I can imagine for a startup that's, overwhelmed with activities in every direction, that would be like a really great tool. You read the book and you can implement a whole lot of stuff, especially with entrepreneurship, so many ideas.
Right.
And he's got a little process for getting those out of his head.
My feeling on that is I think people should do that. And it's kind of also goes back to what I was saying before. There's not one right answer for anyone. My process today for dealing with procrastination and being productive is very different than it was a year ago, it was different than from a year before that. And I don't know if necessarily what I do today would have worked back then. But what I do know is that if you keep it the exact same way, you'll get bored with it, because you got to make it kind of a game. And when you get bored with it, it doesn't work for you anymore, you have to change it up. I highly recommend, if you've been using a to-do list for a long time and you're just kind of finding yourself having a hard time putting things into it or working with it, just drop it, get another one. There's a million of them. It really, that's the case. It's they're a list of things to do. Just, there's lots of options. So, some people like, Google Tasks. I use Remember the Milk. I've been using that for a couple of years now. I really do like it. I'm not done with it yet, but I previously used 3 or 4 different. I went all the way back to Outlook Tasks. I used to do that, my wife uses another one that she likes, Any.do. And I've tried out Todoist, which I think is a great one because they have a feature for pulling in tasks turning your emails into tasks from Gmail. And Wunderlist is, I think, the most popular one. So these are all great to-do lists. You just have to just go try them. And the most important thing is use one. It doesn't really make that much difference which one. Just is one that you're going to use.
Exactly. And to your point, it does not have to be some fancy schmancy technical thing.
No, reminders on your iPhone, if you have an iPhone, If you just like using Siri to add things, or whatever gets you excited, that's what you should use.
Yes, I think that is a great tip. So the other question I had for you, what are some simple things that anyone can do? Like if you're finding yourself like maybe feeling overwhelmed or whatever, what is a good productivity tip that you like to sort of jazz yourself up again?
Well, so I'm going to be pulling something out of order on the answers here, but to answer that specifically, the most important thing I think is to go back and reevaluate your goals. That's another time when you can, just like we are kind of, if you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of your own manager. And if you think about it in that sense, a good manager inspires employees to be able to feel like they're part of something that's moving forward and accomplish something that's going to be helpful to the business and to themselves and everything else. And so you have to go back and remind yourself why you're doing things. And you can kind of see it in the background there, but that's my whiteboard where I keep all of my goals. So at the beginning of the year, I set up all of my goals that I have for the year. And they're real simple, like increase revenue. I mean, like, there's something basic like that, right? So then I start with that and I break it down to, okay, what are the 5 things that if I did this would increase the revenue the most? So I break it into those objectives. And so then I'm like, so those are the subcomponents. And then I go through and I map out, okay, so what's the plan? What are all the tasks that I need to accomplish that I think, based on what I know today, will accomplish those objectives? And so set those objectives up, and then once you get it all lined up and your tasks all lined up, then you work them into your system, into your task list, whatever it is, and schedule them out. But then make sure to go back and check them off the whiteboard. Go up there and see, okay, how much progress have I made? Where am I on this list? How much closer am I to reaching these goals? Because if you do have longer term projects, a lot of times it's going to take you several months before you see the actual revenue goal that you want, which is pretty easy to see. But you might have made some significant progress and can get excited just by seeing those things. And that usually is a big motivating factor, saying, okay, man, 20-30% of the way there. I mean, imagine running a marathon and having no mile markers when you're running. I mean,
exactly. And and that's something else that you said, that you kept it visible. So I had heard this phrase in a class before that said conversations disappear. So if you don't make something visible, it is like it's not there.
Yeah. Well, and you forget. I mean, I forget. And actually, you're saying you should. I mean, once you're working on tasks, you shouldn't be thinking about making more revenue all the time or making this objective all the time. You need to be thinking about your task. And so you put it out of your mind, but there's a time to focus on the task, but you have to go back and revisit it because you will forget. I sometimes forget, what am I even doing? Like, what was this for? I don't remember. And that happens. And then it gets that, and what happens sometimes, that's where you got to reevaluate it. Sometimes you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is a stupid thing to do. I'm wasting my time. I'm no longer being productive. I need to get that off not only do I hate doing this task, but I don't even need to be doing this task, and I need to delete it, and that's satisfying all by itself. So
that's perfect. And we actually even talked about, the one question of what's the right tool for the job, right? So it's like whatever works for you, right? Yeah. I've had this question for a while, and I get into this conversation about tools. One of the areas that I work in is marketing. So people are always asking me about email marketing systems and those kinds of things, right?
Right.
And as well as I do that, there's some tools that are very basic. They have a freemium, so you can get them for free, and they're very basic. They have some good functionality. And then, of course, you can work your way up and grow into those tools. Now, there's been a lot of conversation, especially in the world of marketers, right, where people are talking about whether they should use, let's say, Infusionsoft, which is a very, very high-end email marketing system, or whether they should be using MailChimp, for example, right? Aweber, or so on and so forth. And there are folks who believe that you should invest in the big one, right, and kind of grow into it. And then there are folks that believe, you should probably, work your way up, work out the kinks, just to make sure that, before you're spending thousands of dollars a month possibly, that you got the right system. So where do you stand on that? Should you pick a system that you can grow into, or should you start small and work your way up?
So my feeling on this is the vast majority of cloud services that I've researched and tested they have multiple levels. So if you are kind of putting it to the extreme of, if you're looking at a service that you have to decide between a service that doesn't have an entry level and is a full blown high end enterprise tool from the get-go versus something like a MailChimp that has a freemium level and then can grow into higher levels. I'm not a fan of starting with something that you know you're going to have to abandon. So, I mean, just generally speaking, if you know that there's something in the Infusionsoft email marketing tool that you know you're going to need, and you're going to need it fairly quickly, like within the next year, then you really probably should just go with that, because you don't want to have to transition services, because that's a pain in the butt and it'll slow you down. And that's just one of those infrastructure problems you don't want to have. So if you can find a way to make it cost, reasonably cost appropriate, I guess it would be cost effective to invest in the larger service that you know you're going to need, then you should do it. However, I do think that most of those services that offer the lower end plans can grow with you. MailChimp can do some pretty interesting things. I know one is Campaign Monitor is one that does have lower pricing, and it's a little bit more advanced system. Once you get to sort of more of an enterprise level, I think most of the time you can find a way to enter in at a lower cost with most of these services. They're designed in that way. I mean, even Salesforce, which, for their enterprise clients are charging $300 or $400 a seat, plus, you can get in. It's not cheap, but their entry level pricing is still something that you can manage as a small entrepreneur. But they have the biggest CRM, platform cloud based in the world. So my answer is not. I guess it's more of a preference than it is a hardcore decision. I really do think that investing time and not only financially, but in learning a system that you're going to be abandoning and you can see it, is a waste of time.
And I think the concern I have lots of times is that, and can I just say, I have done this myself.
Okay.
I have done this myself to where I'm like, oh, I know I'm going to use a shopping cart with a gateway and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Leo, it was in the plan.
Yeah.
Part of my goal. And I was like working toward. And so the first thing I did, and honestly, I think this was a big mistake on my part, right? I went through the whole process and I went and I got like merchant accounts and gateway and blah, blah, blah. One credit card, another credit card. They all have requirements and, might I say, nickel and dime monthly charges.
Sure.
$5 here, $10 here, $30 over there.
Right.
Every single month. And then I'm like, oh, I need a shopping cart, right? So then I went up and got a shopping cart. And that was like $99 a month. And Leo, I had not set it up. So I'm paying the monthly fees.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, working on the products that I was going to be selling, right? So it's not like, oh, I don't know. Oh, no. I was like doing it.
Right, of course. But you wound up wasting a bunch of money doing all of that.
But then I wasted, and then after working on stuff for a while, I realized pretty quickly through some testing that this was just not a good strategy for me.
Right.
And I don't know how many thousands of dollars later, I was so mad at myself, right? Because I don't know what I was thinking. I think that was a big mistake on my part.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. So that idea of what I said before, if you know you're going to need something, then you should go that direction from the get-go. And the answer to the question is, what do you really know? You don't really know anything. You're testing as you go. And so I actually am a big believer in that. And that's why. So I guess here's an example of where I think it's kind of a hybrid. I was testing out another business because I'm a big fan of furniture makers, like local furniture makers. I think they make great things, and they get paid nothing. It's crazy. And there's a whole community of them here in Austin. And so I was testing out the concept of trying to be able to generate leads for these guys. So my two choices, if I was going to kind of lean start to test out building a site, I could either build something with a website builder, or I could use WordPress. WordPress is much more difficult to customize and do a lot of things with, or I guess not easy, more difficult to customize, but it's a lot harder to work with than using a straight up website builder. But I also knew that a lot of things that I wanted to do on the road were going to require something like WordPress.
Right.
And I didn't want to have to transfer all that content if I had any success at all from a website builder to WordPress. And that was shooting myself in the foot. But WordPress is also extremely inexpensive to start with. I mean, you can just get a basic hosting plan and just buy a nice looking premium template and spend some time customizing it. And so that's what I did, with the idea that if this worked out, I would probably hire, somebody to come along and customize it and clean it up. And I mean, I already actually met with developers to do that. So my idea was sort of not spend a bunch of money, but also not overinvest time-wise in something that was destined to fail.
Exactly. So that's such a good point. And there's other really awesome tools out there. Like, I don't use it. I use something else because I have another infrastructure. But I love Lead Pages. I think it's great. If you want to test the concept, if you're thinking about launching a particular product and you're not sure, what a great tool. $39 a month. Slap up a squeeze page or whatever, lead capture. Yeah. And you could really test that and see if there's a demand for what you want. And these days, a lot of them have a lot of integration. So all the stuff I went through would have been unnecessary. You could just hook up your PayPal account, and you're off to the races. I think that is, that's very, very easy to do.
Yeah, I think that's definitely to me, you want to test it for as little money as possible, but it's kind of that balancing act of, you don't want to spend too much time doing something that is going to be totally short term, but at the same time, you want to you don't want to overinvest both money and time wise in something that you don't know if it's going to work out. So.
Exactly. So, okay, well, that brings to mind, we've been throwing around a lot of tools. I'm not going in any order here, but like when you are you have this choose what site, right? So you've got articles on how to get things done, but you always also do some product evaluation and review. So where are you going to get the information on some of these latest products and productivity tools?
We test them directly, and a lot of times vendors reach out to us because our site's been around for a pretty good while. So if someone launches a new product, they'll oftentimes go contact us and ask for us to do a review. And everything that all the testing we do ourselves. It's either me or someone on the team or someone that we've hired to do research for us, and also gets vetted through a few times to make sure that everything's accurate, because these things can sometimes be confusing. That's kind of one of the reasons that there's a reason for our existence. Is it sometimes is hard to find the answers to these questions. They're either in terms and conditions or nowhere, and you have to call and just literally ask the customer service person, the salesperson, the question. And then finally, you have to go in and actually test the service, because sometimes things they look good on paper or they look good in the description and don't actually work the way you think they're going to work. So that's one of the most challenging parts, because we review all cloud services, or not all, but the vast majority of cloud services. And companies change their feature sets and pricing all the time, and they don't have to tell you when they do it. So just like a consumer, if I'm signed up for a product, and they overhaul the website and that's my new product, and they're real proud of it, and I'm like, what happened to all my stuff? That just happens, and it happens the same in a review company. They will look, someone will say, hey, they don't have this feature anymore. The pricing's changed, and we'll click through and say, oh, you're right. They didn't tell us, and they did that yesterday. So, and then we try to quickly get things up to date so that people can continue to have, accurate information. But that is, you can't really just rely on third-party information that you haven't vetted to be able to provide that kind of information. You have to do it yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of them, especially with the cloud-based tools, a lot of them will offer a trial period. I don't know. Do you think that those trial periods are long enough? 14 days, 30 days?
Well, it depends. I mean, there are some, I think with a website builder, absolutely, because you should be able to build a website in 30 days. And for the ones that have that, even the ones that don't have free trials usually will have 30 or 45-day refund options. So I think the website builders are work for that. I think a lot of your, I think most of them give you a decent idea for your free trial period. I think 30 days should be long enough. And if you're there are some that offer 60 days for those programs, but I've found typically as a reviewer, it doesn't take you but a couple of days to really get a good sense of it. Most of the time during that 30-day period, the person's just waiting until day 28 to start testing it. You know
exactly.
So it's not really they need more time. They're only used 2 days anyway. So it's just a matter of they're just as the vendors, they're just trying to put a timeline on, okay, you've got to make a decision in this 30 days.
Oh, exactly. So gotta know, what are some of your favorite tools that you've run into recently? Anything new that small business owners should be excited about?
So let's see, in terms of new tools, let's see.
Like something that you were like, wow, that is cool.
Well, there's tons of tools that I love. I mean, this one isn't new, but one of the ones that every time I introduce a new person, someone to it, that they love is Trello. So I'm not sure, it's been around for several years now, but Trello is so simple and is so easy. And another one, it's just rebranded because it's a merging of two other ones. But it's not really a tool, but if you maybe think of that in terms of project management, is Upwork. And so for entrepreneurs that need to get help for things and they don't have, a lot of employees and they don't want to spend a ton of money, but they want to get good quality help, Upwork is a godsend. Great contractors, really talented. They're from all over the world, whether it's US based or somewhere, across the world. They have people, all different price ranges, all different talent levels. Really easy to work with. The system's very open. They allow you to communicate. You can send them your Skype, login to communicate with them separately. It's a really good tool. And so I typically will use Upwork, and then if it's someone I'm working with regularly, I'll use Trello to help with that, or I'll use Google Docs, things like that to help kind of keep it organized. Here's kind of, one of the questions that you posed to me before is your favorite productivity tools. This isn't ranked by sort of what's newer, and I do this stuff all the time, so it's not, I guess the newest thing I'm using is Slack, and that's kind of blown up.
But is that for, and I've just played with Glip recently from Ring Central. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference so why is everybody all up on Slack? Don't you have to have a team and be working with these people all the time to be in it?
It's, so part of the reason I started using Slack was because I wanted to know what was the big deal. Honestly, that's why I started using it. And the one thing that it does that I think really provides an advantage is, so say you use Trello, and you're managing a contractor on Trello. Well, a lot of things that you want to communicate with that contractor don't belong on a Trello card. They're not part of a task they're working on or a project. But you may be discussing it's going to be a future project or a future card. It may or may not be. You don't know. And you kind of want to keep all that stuff in one place. So if you're communicating with them on Trello for around a project, and then you send them an email about something for the future, or maybe they just want to email you about something else, or Skype or whatever it is, now you have information in two different places, and your email is cluttered up with all kinds of nonsense. And Trello is kind of where you're operating, and so it gets lost. So Slack is a good tool because you can integrate it with Trello, so it pulls in all of your comments, your tasks, your new cards, all the actions from Trello, and keeps a record of all of that in one place. But you can also just freeform type in chat messages to each other and attach documents and things like that. And they're not necessarily going to be in Trello because maybe you don't want it there. But it allows all the communication to remain in one place. And I think that is the value of it, is the fact that it's integrating your instant messaging capabilities with your project management and document management tools, so that if you want to see a thread of everything that you've done in communication with a person or a team, it's all in one place. So I see it more of a retention, like a data retention or repository,
right,
and the archive,
right,
as well as a messaging tool.
Well, that makes me ask a question. What's the difference? And I'm asking the Twitter sphere right now.
Okay.
I'm going to put Slack. And now, have you heard of Glip?
I have.
I just got a demo.
From RingCentral?
Yes, I just did the demo like a couple days ago, and boy, it sounds like Slack. What's the difference?
So I've heard of it. I haven't gotten to personally test it. I've done a lot of work with RingCentral over the years. I've used their Office product. I actually use their professional product for my phone line right now, which I really like. And I've used their fax products. So I haven't used it yet. So you're going to have to be the one to tell me what the difference is.
Well, I have. So wow, aren't we a team, right? So I have not used Slack, but I have seen the demo for Glip, and it sounds a whole lot like Slack, right? So you can put teams in from all over. So even if you have folks from Upwork, maybe you have internal people, maybe you have vendors, right? So you got some folks inside your company, but then you have like vendors, like a website developer or a designer or a printer, people that are outside your organization, but working on a project together. You can create a team, and then there's chat messages and documents and everything. And it does integrate with your email. I think they also have some other kinds of integrations there as well. I don't know, APIs that connect with who knows what.
If I had to guess, if Slack doesn't integrate with RingCentral already, I would say the difference would probably be the fact that it'll probably record when you have conversations with people on your team. So if you have a phone conversation, because that's one of the advantages of Business VoIP in general for tracking information is, so I've been in sales in the past, and one of the biggest nightmares of using a CRM if you're in sales is having to constantly write down every time you had a communication with somebody. It's annoying.
Right.
And if you have a Business VoIP service, depending on which one you have, they'll have integrations for CRM tools, including Salesforce. And so it'll make a log automatically. It's like you called this person on this date that lasted this long, and you can make notes or whatever if you want to. So I would imagine that would be the advantage of.
That is something they have. So like you could have obviously through the Google platform, right? You could create like these Google Hangouts and conference calls and voice calls and bridge lines, and all these numbers are like integrated. You're right. I think that might be, I don't know what Slack does, but that is a big thing. So you can have a meeting, everyone be in the meeting. It has a calendar with a calendaring tool that you can kind of use. I think
because RingCentral Office offers all that stuff as part of its product. It has video conferences,
right?
And it has chat. You can even do text messaging, business text messaging through it,
right?
That product. So if their custom tool would be designed primarily for their Office users to make it so it could all fit in one place and be integrated seamlessly, which you haven't gotten here yet, but this is, I think one of your questions before was, how do you pick tools?
Mm-hmm.
And these days, the thing that, and I don't look at this just for business products anymore, I look at this for everything, is integrations. The world is becoming more and more integrated. And so when I pick a tool out, I always look and see, okay, I already use these 4 or 5 tools. My next tool that I want to get, I'd like for it to play with these tools. I don't want to change over all these tools when I go to this tool. I want them to work together. Even if I don't even know how they're going to work together yet, I'd like for them to work together in case I figure it out. And so I would say those integrations, and that's where Slack has had a huge sort of celebration in the media a few months ago, was when they opened up their app store. And so they basically opened up to third-party developers to create APIs to integrate with all kinds of different tools. And it reminds me of IFTTT and Zapier, which are both built around creating triggers to do things in an automated way. And it's the same concept of building the same thing that iPhones did with iOS with the App Store, is allow third parties to get in there and dramatically expand the capabilities of the thing that you already have. And that's why Echo is doing so well with Amazon. that's what you're looking for when you're looking for a tool these days. Is what does their third party developer world look like? Salesforce has their, the huge, I can't remember what it's called, but they even have a name for it, but their Force application where they have tons of developers building things just to integrate Salesforce with different products and with different capabilities. WordPress, same thing, huge developer community creating all kinds of templates and plugins. So that is really, sometimes you may not think that the big name is worth it, but if the big name comes with a big developer community, it's usually worth it. So
that is absolutely great advice. So what have we not covered in our little chat? Favorite tools, criteria?
So, well, one thing, you said, what are your favorite productivity tools? And what I kind of listed out was, rather than listing favorite productivity tools, I made a list of the ones I use every day.
Nice.
I wouldn't call them favorite, just ones I use every day. So task management, as I mentioned, Remember the Milk. I like it because has a lot of flexibility for being able to add different tags, create different lists. Not every tag is a list necessarily, so it's good for that. You can add time, you can add priority, and it does all those things well with me. Not everybody will love it because of the fact that it kind of has its own little structure for like hashtag or exclamation point and things like that to add in your different priorities. You have to kind of learn that for it to be truly useful, but I know it now, so it's easy for me. Project management, I use Trello and Slack in the way that I mentioned before. I also use Evernote, and Evernote to me is for single projects. So if I'm going to do something that's not necessarily a collaboration tool, because I don't really love it for collaboration, but if I'm going to basically create like a sort of a plan for myself, I want to keep a lot of notes about it and brainstorm and things like that. Maybe I'm working on a content piece or something like that. I'll create a note in Evernote and have it in a notebook that's where all my business notes are. Contractor management, I use Upwork, as mentioned before. Skype is great. As we're doing this video blab right now, I think one of the most underutilized tools for entrepreneurs is actually having a video conference with those contractors that you're using from across the planet or whatever, because you learn so much and build such a good rapport by actually seeing someone's face, seeing them nodding their head, seeing their eyes light up, or seeing them going, kind of looking around the room because they have no idea what you're talking about, and you realize, okay, I need to explain this a little deeper because they don't get it. It allows screen sharing and all kinds of things. So that's a transformative technology in terms of being able to work with people in a much more effective way who aren't in your office. Google Sheets, I use those like crazy because I love the fact that there's nothing better for collaboration because in real time you'll see updates. So if someone's adding, you can 2 or 3 people work on the same spreadsheet at the same time, you can see what they're doing. So anyway, I can go deep into contractor management, but those are the tools. Social media, I've used TweetDeck, but I also like Buffer a lot. Mm-hmm. Buffer's kind of my go-to right now. It just seems a little bit easier for scheduling tweets. Mostly using for scheduling tweets, a little bit with Facebook, but let's see, for phone, I use 2 different services because I actually, for the business that I'm kind of still playing with, the furniture kind of lead gen business, for my Choose What business, I have RingCentral Pro that I use. I'm using it for a long time and it's great. I love it. The app is really, really functional. And then for the other business, I use Phone.com. They have really good entry-level pricing. So it's really good features. It's $9.99 for 100 minutes. And when you're first getting started out, that's, you're not going to be using a ton of phone minutes. So it's a good way to get a phone number, get a little bit more professional appearance. You can set up your own, corporate voicemail, things like that. And then also I have a personal fax, online fax service I've been using forever, which is MetroFax. And I use that almost exclusively these days for dealing with the medical industry because they won't email you. They can't because of HIPAA. So, if I needed to communicate with them, I use MetroFax. Document sharing, Dropbox, because it integrates with absolutely everything and it's simple and it's great. Online backup, one that not everybody knows about, but I think works really well. It is very cost effective, is iDrive. iDrive it's really, really cheap. It's crazy. And it's great because they're not, Carbonite's got unlimited data backup, which is wonderful if you have one computer, but if you want to back up 2 computers, like a desktop and a laptop or something like that, They charge you per license per computer because it's unlimited. Where iDrive charges you for total data storage, and you can put it on as many computers as you want, as long as you don't breach the data volume. So that's really nice. Personal finance, I use Mint. Password management, LastPass. Anyone who ever sees this, if you don't have a password manager, get one. Any of them. This whole concept of I can remember the 5 passwords and it's great. 5 passwords is not enough. You need really badass passwords, and you need different ones for every site, because that is how people get hacked and get their identity stolen. Things go really bad. So get a password manager and use it if necessary. I use LastPass, but there's also there's a million of them. Not a million, but there's.
Yeah, I use Dashlane, and what's really, I don't know if LastPass does this, but Dashlane, like whether if you have it on your iPhone, because it's not about so much the computer, because a lot of computers remember passwords and blah, 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 right? Where it gets ridiculous is if you are on site somewhere, you're away from the computer, all you have is your cell phone or whatever. You have got what Dashlane will do is it's almost like it has its own browser.
Mm-hmm.
So like you go inside the app and you can go straight into your
vault.
Whatever it is, and it'll just take you like straight to the web page and log you in, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, LastPass does that. And another thing I like about LastPass is it also on both iOS and Android, you can actually it integrates with the native browser, and you can actually just hit a button and it'll pull up from your vault. And I just use my thumb, fingerprint ID, and it'll match the site to my password and log in for me on that. So I can just use it with Safari on my iPhone. So I don't have to use the LastPass browser if I don't want to. And then just one note on, yes, browsers will save your login information, but most people don't really know how to access and use that as a vault. So they're gonna be scared to just put in a creative password in there.
Correct.
So don't recommend using that.
No, you gotta have the thing.
Yeah.
Now, my question for you is, do you have one service I have had for years and years and years, especially when I had a couple PCs in the house. I had a desktop, I had a laptop, and whatever. Mm-hmm. Whether you've got a Mac or a PC, because I've switched over to Mac now, but beside the point, I still have this. It used to be called iTalk, ITOK. Now it's called Bask, BASK. Have you ever heard of that?
iTalk sounds familiar. Tell me what it is.
Okay. Greatest thing since sliced bread if you were a small business owner, seriously, with no tech skills.
Okay.
And I would definitely say if you're running a Windows machine. If you're running a Windows machine, you will get way bang for your buck. So for $20 per device, so $20 a month for each device, right? I mean, for each computer, right, that you want to have this on. What they will do is every quarter or so, they run a maintenance. So you get connected with them. They get connected to your machine. They will clean your machine. Anyone who's had a Windows machine knows that they get dirty. You get registry. It slows you down. Windows updates, stuff that's running in the background. They come in, they will do this for you, right, every quarter. Mm-hmm. The other thing they'll do for you is, let's say something happened, and I don't care what kind of machine you're on, all you Mac people, you're going to get something. You're going to get an email. You're going to click on something wrong. It happens. They will, at no additional cost, do whatever it takes to clean that up. But the reason I say if you're a PC that it really is worth your money, I actually got something in my Dell.
Mm-hmm.
Leo, they were on there for like 7 hours.
And fixed it. Yeah, when you get those problems, I mean, it really is. It's one of those. It's an insurance policy, is what you're talking about.
It's an insurance policy. And I'm going to tell you, all my computers, they run the maintenance. It cleans everything up. So your computer's always nice and clean, always nice and fast. You don't have to worry about there's a what do you call it? Your Trend Micro or whatever. Your virus protection. All that stuff is on there, but they really do just a great job of flushing out your system and making sure it's running right.
Yeah, that's an interesting solution. I'd love if maybe send it to me afterwards. I'd love to take a look at it. My biggest policy on that is I've tried every kind of antivirus software that there is, and to me, antivirus software itself is the virus. It really is. Like, nothing slows your computer down more than antivirus software. So I just use, for fortunately, that's my favorite thing about Macs is you just don't have that much problem with that. I mean, I'm actually running a Mac and a PC on this desk right here because I use both for different reasons. I fortunately have never had anything that was just crippling like that. Whenever I have had a bug or something like that, I usually am able just to use your sort of traditional cleanup tools to kind of wipe all those sort of Trojan horses and whatnot out of your computer. But I do know that it can be a nightmare, and I'm a little bit more technical than your average Joe. It's not that I'm not a programmer, but I'm just comfortable getting and messing with things that people aren't comfortable messing with typically on a computer. But I think doing something like that rather than trying to like beef up by getting crazy antivirus software, because the thing is you might get hit with a virus at some point down the road, but those antivirus softwares typically are going to be getting things that are like old news anyway, and so the odds of you having kept it that current and that up to date to block out the virus that showed up yesterday before it got to your computer is pretty low. So you'll be dealing with the horrible weight of that program slowing down your computer for however long, 5 years, and then then you still get the virus, and it's just terrible. So I just use Microsoft Security Essentials on my PC, and then the Mac, just they don't get viruses. I mean, I've never had a problem, and I've actually never even met anybody that got a virus on the Mac.
I don't know. I clicked on something I shouldn't have, but it was one of those trickies. These are the ones that get me. It's the one where they swipe someone from your address book,
mm-hmm.
and then they put something in whether it's the subject or whatever that actually seems like it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine like if I got an email from you that said a tool you should try.
Yeah, I don't. So that's another thing that can really protect you on this is I have Microsoft Outlook on my PC. I almost never use it anymore. If you use Cloud Mail, like I use Google at Work for my Gmail.
Right, me too.
For my email, and also I still even have an old like Hotmail address, but it's access to the Outlook or Outlook.com. You won't get the virus by just clicking on one of those emails. So you have to open it, and then you have to open the attachment to get the virus. If you just open the email in one of those tools,
right.
It can't auto open. They won't. It won't allow that to happen.
I don't know. I think I got something. Let's see. I told you about iTalk. Or Basque. I have to remember they had a brand change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know now. You had a good list there.
Well, to finish up my list, which we were pretty much done, was bookkeeping. I use QuickBooks. Another one that I want to shout out for, which I've been really liking, is Xero. Before Xero came along, there really was not a viable alternative to QuickBooks in the United States because of the fact that there was no community of bookkeepers that understood how to use anything besides QuickBooks. Xero apparently is pretty intuitive. I've talked to a lot of bookkeepers that like it. And they've got good pricing, especially if you're doing payroll in a combined service, because they include payroll in all their plans. So it's a good deal. If you're wanting to look outside of QuickBooks, then Xero is the way to go. But QuickBooks is still the largest player and is still the safest bet. Then for email enhancements, so I use Google at Work, as I mentioned before, but I use Chrome with Google at Work, and I use a ton of plugins on it. So if you use the Chrome browser with Gmail or Google at Work, which gives you your business Gmail, the most useful plugins that I have are HelloSign. I use the free versions of all of these because I don't do that much signing. But HelloSign gives you 3 digital signatures a month built in, and that's so much easier than printing it out, signing, scanning, or anything else you can do. For reminders, so Boomerang, it's a tool that essentially you send an email. If nobody responds to it or nothing comes back within a set number of days or hours or whatever, you get an email that notifies you saying you never heard back from this person. So you have to always add a task to your list saying, if I haven't heard back by Wednesday, to check back, which is annoying. schedule meetings, assistant.to. It allows you to basically just kind of select gaps on your calendar, and you can say what the duration of the meeting will be, and it'll put buttons in on your email. You can send it out, and they can just click whichever time slot they want, and it'll automatically add to both your calendars.
Oh, I like that. I don't know that one. You have all the ones I have, but I don't have that one.
That's a good one. Unroll Me is it's kind of a plugin. It's kind of just a service. Love it. What great way to get your newsletters out of your email stream, because those things clutter everything up and become a nightmare. Sidekick by HubSpot is they have a paid version that's actually I'm considering looking at. It's a very, very comprehensive plugin. It actually does a lot of some of these other tools, but I just use the free version. And the thing I use it for the most, the two things, and I think Boomerang actually does one of these, but I use HubSpot for tracking who's opened an email. So you can just check a little box when you send an email, and it'll tell you if it's been opened and when and by who. Mm-hmm. And then you can also use to schedule emails if you're working in the middle of the night or whatever, and you don't want to look like a psycho sending out emails at 3 a.m. about something. You can type the email up and then schedule it to be sent at 9 a.m. at a reasonable time when you think someone's going to be available to actually respond. So those are my top plugins for Gmail, but those are all Chrome plugins, so you have to be using Chrome to use them.
No, I think those are absolutely fantastic. I love the Sidekick. I don't think I've used that one. I actually, when you mentioned that, I put in the comments, I put in Nimble, because they have a new feature right now where you can send I love Nimble as a CRM, especially for folks who are, if you meet new people through social media, mm-hmm. That's how you find people and meet people. What Nimble will do, it's almost like what you were saying with Salesforce. It'll even take your conversation from Twitter, right, mm-hmm. and put it into your conversation stream, so you can see the whole development of the conversation. And then the other thing you can do, and I actually use this a lot, they have a group messaging system, so that when I could send a message to all the people that were on my blab, right? Mm-hmm. I can have them in my contacts, like all the guests. And then I would say, hey, I have space open. Does anybody want to be a guest on date XYZ or whatever? It'll tell me who opened the email, and I can follow through on that conversation. So it's a social CRM.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. But it also has that. But what I really like about it is that email actually comes from your native Gmail. It does not come from like Infusionsoft or
right, from a third party. Right.
Which is really great. So you can actually do, what do you call that? A merge, right? So if I'm managing a lot of like judges, guests, speakers, right? So we're like around an event, and that just makes it really nice. Everyone gets a personal message. Mm-hmm. It comes from my Gmail, and I get to keep track of who responded and who didn't.
Right. That's great. That's, for people who do any sort of significant amount of search engine optimization, a tool that I actually use, I'm not the heaviest user of it. I don't use it all the ways that maybe they suggest. As like a really pro user is BuzzStream. It's designed around keeping track of sort of link targets. So if you're trying to build links and trying to build relationships with different places where you're saying, okay, I want to get a link on this industry website. It'll help you keep track of their Twitter feed, any people that you have associated with. You can like kind of attach people to the project. It's a CRM designed for people who are trying to do link acquisition, and which is basically what link acquisition is sales. I mean, you're essentially trying to say, I'm worthy of your letting me, referencing me somewhere on your site. And just like any kind of sales, you have to build a rapport with the people. You have to let them know that you're a real person, that you're trustworthy, you're worth their time. So, but it does the same thing. It has templates in it. It sends emails. It'll integrate with your Gmail. It'll send it from your Gmail, and it's a real email. It tracks it. It'll let you know if you haven't got a response in a certain number of days. All those kinds of things.
Nice.
That way.
Nice. I put in my little note chat box. I should have been doing this before when we were talking all these tools. I should have put them all on there. I use Schedule Once as a calendaring tool. When you mentioned Assistant TO, if mm-hmm. you are trying to get people together, multiple people together, mm-hmm. You can decide the days, the time, dates and times that are open, and then people could just select what works for them. and the system does the rest. You choose your, I think you used that of mine, didn't you?
Yeah, that's Assistant.to. That was one of my my favorite plugins for Gmail.
Yeah, I love that one. And the other one, I think that was it. We got a comment that said, it isn't SEO optimization, it's oh yeah, well.
Yeah, search engine optimization. If I said SEO optimization, ask WT support, I apologize.
I get it.
Sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain.
No, I get it. I was just, I wrote it down because I was thinking, I actually was thinking about search engine optimization, but like optimizing that entire process. So that's,
yeah. Optimizing the process of SEO.
Yeah,
I mean, then in that case, it is SEO optimization. But,
at least that's how I heard it. That's how I heard it. So, all right.
Oh, so you typed SEO optimization tools. Got it. I see.
Got it. Yeah, exactly. So like the BuzzStream, I'll have to try that one. I don't know if anybody else has any other tools they would want to share. Boy, we covered a ton of them. Maybe you can put some of them in the stream there, so folks could click around and check them out.
Sure. I mean, I can just put like this little. Let's see if I can. Let's put these. So this is my my little list here for. Let's watch. See if this will copy in. Let's see if this works. I'm just copied from a Word document my whole list of like all the tools.
That awesome!
Goes in. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe I can put them in one at a time. Would it be better if I did that? Like a line by line?
I mean, that seems like it would be a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. But anyway, and it's pretty, I mean, however, I'd be happy to do it. But
no, that's all right. I think that's good. As long as people have, you can see what it is. You can open it. What happens if you open it? They've added some, I see. They've got, okay, it goes straight to one link. Gotcha.
Oh, there's one link for phone.com because it's called phone.com. And
right.
So that turns it into a link. It's the only one that's actual has a .com in the name. Because you can't call phone, or that's weird.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's only pinning that link. I get it. I'm starting to learn some new features on this puppy.
Cool. Well,
because I have not noticed the pins before. Oh, I see. If it's got a website on it, you can pin it. Got it. All right. I did not notice that before.
Yeah, because I noticed you have the same thing on when you put in nimble.com. If you comments.
You can do that. Awesome. All
so,
right.
The one other thing that you'd asked, you said, what are the must-have tools and apps for startups?
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to just jump to that one real quick because I actually wrote. I've got a new column on CIO.com, and so my first article was the first was four applications that I believe every startup needs, like within the first week of being in business. And I really do believe this, that everyone needs this, no matter what you're doing in the first few days. It'll really help set you on the right path. Number one, password manager. I mean,
right.
That's without a doubt. Everyone these days, you don't even realize how many accounts you're going to have to set up. And if you don't have a password manager from day one, it's going to be a pain in the butt. Number two, a to-do list manager for obvious reasons. Number three, this is kind of a three-parter, but it's the very beginning when you're getting started. I think getting, unless you're web savvy and you want to do a WordPress and you have that skill set, but if you don't, getting a website builder and going through that website builder to go ahead and get your domain registered and get your business email address, your business branded email address, because they make it simple or they'll give you a discount. Both. Oftentimes they're integrated. And so just sign up for something like, Weebly or even GoDaddy's website builder, one-on-one, any of them. They all have, you can try them out, which one you like, but they all have, very simple templates, and they allow you to get all three of those components in one place. And if you do them all in one place, it'll require no technical skill whatsoever. You can get a name for your, URL for your business, and then building that website's really valuable because it'll help you think about how you want to present yourself to the world, because you have to write the content on the site to help you to think through your idea. And it really is meaningful to do that. So I think that's very important. And the fourth thing is I would suggest anyone get a virtual phone number. I mean, the free way is to get a Google Voice number, but never use your cell phone as your business number, not even on the very first day. Don't ever give your cell phone number as your business number, because once you do that, you will forever be stuck with at least some portion of the world thinking that your business number is your cell phone number, and that's not a good place to be. So either get a Google Voice number for free just to get a different number, or get something like what I did with phone.com, and it's really inexpensive to get a business number. And the nice thing there is, before we talked about getting something, whether you should get something that works for you now versus something that's going to work for you in the future. These phone numbers are portable. You can transfer it out. Google Voice charges $3 to transfer your number out. If you've done that, phone.com or any of those virtual PBXs will charge $0 to transfer your number to wherever you want to use it if you decide later. But the most important thing there is you have a phone number you can put on your website, you can put it on your business card, you can put it on your emails, and that becomes the phone number brand for your business. And those four things everybody needs to do right at the beginning. It's just critical.
That's great advice, because I can tell you when I started up, lots of businesses still had hard lines. So when I got my cell phone, I'm like, this is going to be my business number.
I did the same thing. I had an 8.
There was nothing else.
Yeah, back in my first business startup, I did it in '99, and I got it.
99.
I got a AT&T separate cell phone number, and I was like, this is so cool. But now if someone calls a cell phone, you know what a cell phone voicemail sounds like. So if you get to the voicemail on what you think is a business number and you get a cell phone, you know instinctively that is a cell phone number and that this business may or may not be legitimate.
Interesting. Well, I have learned a lot. I know all you guys learned a lot too. Thank you, Leo. That was awesome.
Cool. Glad I can help. So hopefully some people will get something out of this, and hopefully in the future when it's on the replays, people will get information out of it. And if anybody has a question that they want to ask, we have a forum on choosewhat.com. There's also a contact form which we try to respond to.
Oh, so now I figured out. Now that I know how this works, I'm going to see if I can do this. Choosewhat.com.
Choosewhat.com.
Pin. Is it going to pin? Pin.
And so you're trying to pin it onto the.
I thought it was going to put it in the little box, but it's not doing it. But I thought
the lab's in beta. It's still figuring it out.
It might still be figuring it. It worked up here when I said pin. It put phone.com in there. Look at that.
Oh, I don't know.
But here I just put. It gives me the option. And it says no. No. I can open it. Yeah, it'll open it.
Yeah, when I click on it, it opens it, but it won't put it in that box.
It will not put it in a box, which is what I wanted. What if I put this? Choose what? Won't be shown in the recordings or audio. That's okay. Nope. Oh, but it would help if I did this. It just doesn't want it.
It's rejecting me.
It's rejecting you, Leo. It says no. I don't know what I just.
Maybe we can figure out what phone.com that has that we don't. So,
yes.
This is great. This is a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing the first Blab. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here, and all you guys that dropped in a little bit late. Catch the replay. He is covering tons of awesome tools. So if you want the inside scoop on all the tools, check the replay for Bizapalooza chat on best productivity tools for small business. Thank you, Leo.
Sure. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. I don't know how to end this, so hopefully.
There's nothing. I'm just going to close the window.
Okay, perfect. I'll do the same.